everyone, it's Steve from Sneaker Tech Talk and 23MJ88 over on Instagram, back with another video today. And for today's video, we're going to take a look at the performance review of the Puma MB.01 Low. Alright, so starting off with the traction on the Puma MB.01 Low. In the forefoot, you do have that radial nub traction pattern, as you can see here. And then kind of at the midfoot and at the heel, you have this diamond traction pattern with little slits going through it. And then right at the heel at the back of the shoe, you have more of those nubs. As far as how this traction performed, this traction was phenomenal. This is probably actually one of the best translucent outsole traction patterns out right now. The slight issue that I guess I maybe did have was on dirty floors, you'd have to wipe every 3 or 4 plays. But if you're on a clean floor, these are gonna have you absolutely covered. And a great thing about these as well is the traction pattern, the rubber compound, is actually really firm and quite tight. So I think this traction would work pretty good outside. I did take these outside on a sport court twice and they were great and they really show no signs of wear. And I'm about 25 hours into playing with these. So as far as the traction goes, I'm really enjoying them. And again, outdoors, I think these are definitely a viable option if you can get your hands on these. So as far as the traction goes on the Puma MB.01 Lows, I'm gonna have to give them a very solid 9.5 out of 10. So as far as the cushioning goes in the Puma MB.01 Lows, it's exactly the same setup on the regular mid tops. It has that nitro foam in the heel, and it basically wraps around 360 degrees on the shoe here, as you can see. On the lateral side, it is caged for some support, but that really does not prevent the cushioning setup from activating because the heel and the medial side is not caged. And I think that's perfect because you get a lot of impact protection in the heel. The shoe is decently close to the ground for some decent court feel in the shoe. It's not going to be something like Nike offers with that really low profile Zoom Air cushioning, but it's definitely nice nonetheless. So for me, I think this is a very reliable setup. One thing I will mention is the foam can be a little bit dense for the first 2 or 3 hours of play in these. The first time I played in these low tops, I was actually playing in full court 5-on-5, and I played for about 3 hours, and I did have some pain in my feet the next day, but then I played the next few days after that in these, and I really had no issues. That was really the same issue that I had in the mid tops. The first time I played in them was 3 hours in 5-on-5. Like I said, a little bit of foot pain, but once this foam breaks in, it's very much a nice setup, and it has a ton of impact protection in the heel, like I said. And then as far as heel to toe transition goes in these, again, it's a very nice setup because the heel itself and the medial side is not caged. So you get a lot of compression in the heel, and then it's very much a nice flow as far as the heel to toe transition. As you can see, the shoe has some nice curvature to it. So it's very natural feeling in the Puma MB.01 Lows. But like I said, as far as the cushion goes in the Puma MB.01 Lows, I think this is a very reliable setup. And as far as the cushion goes, I'm gonna have to give it a pretty solid 7.5 out of 10. So as far as the fit goes in the Puma MB.01 Lows, they do fit true to size. My toe is basically right at the end of the shoe, which is the same in all of my Nike basketball shoes. I'm usually a size US 10.5 in those, and it's no different in these. One thing I will caution is if you are a wide footer, I would say go up half a size because it is pretty narrow right here in the forefoot. And as far as getting these shoes, they're selling out instantly online. So if you are gonna order them online and you can actually add to cart and you are a wide footer, I would say go up half a size because that's a safe bet with them being a little bit narrow. These eyelets do run down into the footbed. So if you do really crank these eyelets here in the forefoot, which I do recommend for lockdown, they can be a little bit tight here. After they're broken in, it's a little bit better. But like I said, if you are a wide footer, I would just go up half a size to prevent any soreness or tightness in the forefoot. But as far as the fit goes, it's very much the same as the mid tops. So as far as the fit goes on the Puma MB.01 Lows, I'm gonna have to give it a pretty solid 8.5 out of 10. So as far as the materials go on the Puma MB.01 Lows, it's exactly the same as the mid tops. You do have some textile mesh on the back of the shoe here with some nice stitch work for those flames for the rocket ship on his leg. And then moving your way forward, you do have some screen mesh on the toe box, which offers a very nice broken in feeling right out of the box. Really no break in time as far as the feeling goes up front. A little bit at the back with this stiff textile mesh, but it does break in nicely after the first wear. And then you do have some fuse panels up front for extra support and durability, as you can see here on the toe, and then running up the eyelets as well. And then it wraps around the shoe. So it's a cheap setup, but the way I grade the setup is that if it's cheap, yeah, that's one thing, but does it perform on court? And these really perform great. And especially at the price point these are at, I think these are at 120 USD and 135 Canadian. So for the price point, if you can actually find a pair at retail and for the setup that you're getting and the way they perform, I think you're getting a pretty good bang for your buck. So as far as the materials go on the Puma MB.01 lows, I would have to give it a pretty solid 7 out of 10. So as far as the weight of the shoe for the Puma MB.01 lows, the low tops in a size 10.5 come in at 16.2 ounces. So this really is not a lightweight shoe by any means, for being a low top especially. And the mid tops come in at 16.45. So again, there's really no difference with the weight of these two shoes. And it's a little bit surprising because as you can see the collar height, it's about an inch or so difference. So for me, I would have thought that there would have been a bit of a difference in the weight, but as far as the weight goes, it's really the same as far as the low tops and the mid tops. So as far as the support goes in the Puma MB.01 lows, at the back of the shoe, you do have an internal heel counter, which definitely locks your heel in place very well for a low top. It's the same thing on the mid tops, so you do have that internal TPU heel counter in the back of the shoe. And then working your way down, you do have this plastic TPU X pattern here on the lateral side, and that's gonna offer some support on lateral cuts and movements for your foot to not come over the footbed. Your foot's actually sitting just inside this midsole here, so it does wrap up just ever so slightly on your foot to protect it on lateral cuts and movements. And then moving your way down, you do have this rubber cup outsole, and it does run up the shoe just a little bit, as you can see here. So again, your foot sitting just inside this kind of portion of the outsole that wraps up. So again, it's protecting your foot from sliding over the footbed. And then as well, coming up top here, you do have eyelets on the lateral and on the medial side, and these eyelets run right down directly into the footbed independently. So again, these eyelets are harnessing your foot. So this shoe has a ton of lateral support. This is something that I did mention with the New Balance 2A V2s. My foot was sliding over the footbed. This material is very strong, very breathable, but the issue is these eyelets end right at the top of the shoe. And this foam is so soft that when I went and made lateral cuts, I was having issues with my foot sliding directly over the footbed. With the Puma MB.01 lows, that's not an issue because this material is pretty rigid. You have that TPU pattern here, the eyelets, you have this outsole that wraps up just a little bit. And I believe as well, there is a little small clip in the midfoot here for torsional rigidity. So as far as support goes, like I can barely bend this shoe. You do have some flexibility within the toe, but as far as the midfoot support and the overall support for lateral, it's fantastic. And again, I'll just pull in the mid tops here. As you can see here, the mid tops are basically the exact same setup as the low tops. So as far as support goes, I think Puma did an amazing job for support. I would have to give it a very solid 8.5 out of 10. So one thing I do want to touch on is as far as the design for the Puma MB.01s. The low tops, I'm definitely enjoying them. There are a few things on the low tops that are missing from the mid tops, which I will show. But again, the stitch work here on the lateral side is very nice and almost offers a premium touch. And then again, the Puma logo here at the heel is very small, but it's there nonetheless. You have Mellow running down the back of the shoe. And then again, some more of those flames. These are kind of like a suede or a nubuck here, kind of a faux suede or nubuck. This is definitely not the real deal, but again, it's a nice touch. 1 of 1 on the toe. And then at the top of this pair, it's the UFO pair. There is a small little spacecraft with, it looks like lamello inside. So that's definitely a nice touch considering it says not from here. So that's the whole thing they're going on, is that Mellow is not from Earth. He's something special from another planet. Again, you have that UFO on the tongue, and then you have the Puma stripe here on the toe with another Puma cat logo here. But when you move to the bottom of the shoe, both shoes do have that one of one kind of coin at the bottom or emblem, which is nice. But the low tops are missing that rare logo underneath the forefoot, which for me, I really like that. I think it's pretty dope. It's a really cool look when you're sitting down and you can see the bottom of the shoe, or you're running, you can see that rare portion of the forefoot. And then here on the low tops, they just skipped that altogether. So I would have liked to see that on the low tops. But again, as far as the design goes, I think Puma absolutely knocked this shoe out of the park as far as the low tops and the mids. They really perform the same as far as performance goes. There's a few more colorways coming out, I believe July 13th. I believe there's an all white and then an all white with some red trim on the flames and kind of running down the eye stay. And then there's a white and blue. And I believe there's a white and black I've seen recently as well. So they're dropping a lot of summer colors in the low tops. But as far as which one I preferred, honestly, as far as the weight goes, they're really the same. I found the mid tops to be just a little bit more supportive with that ankle collar being a little bit more rigid. But again, they're more or less the same shoe. I just preferred the mid tops just a little bit better. Especially these shoes are really not any difference in weight as far as the weight goes. But again, if you can get your hands on these at retail, I think it's a fantastic buy and definitely a viable option outdoors, because like I said, that outsole traction pattern is very strong as far as that rubber compound. And I've played in these for about 5 months now, and I'll show you right here. There's really no wear and tear. None of the nubs are wearing away or falling off, which is definitely a good look as far as the traction. And then again, on court, inside, they perform fantastic. Just on dirty floors, you'll have to wipe every 3 or 4 plays. All right, so that's gonna do it for today's performance review on the Puma MB.01 lows. As always, if you guys can give me a follow over on Instagram at 23MJ88. It's Sneaker Tech Talk over here on YouTube. But again, as far as the performance goes of the Puma MB.01 low or the mids, you really have a fantastic shoe at an amazing price at $120 USD, 135 Canadian. Very reliable traction in or outdoors, in my opinion. With that nitro foam, you have a ton of impact protection in the heel and pretty good court feel up front. Again, the materials are pretty cheap on these guys, but they perform great, so I'm not too concerned. And then as far as the fit goes, go true to size. If you're a wide footer in that forefoot, I would say go up half a size and you'll be fine. A ton of support features within this shoe as well. But as always, stick around for the on-court footage at the end of the video. And until next time, peace.
in sync with the earth. 10 toes deep, flower child from the turf. I never switch sides, like even when I die, I'ma ride for the squad, let her ties in the hearse.